Hello, this is Lady Boulay, and I hope you're having a great day. Today, I decided to try to record live. I haven't done this before, and I wanted to see how it's done. So, bear with me. It won't be long. I just want to do a quick discussion about African Americans and what's happening with us now with this crime is out of control and black men and black women are battling back and forth, and each group has a point. But I'm just going to say that this is the price that we pay for not having a social stratification in every society. There is a social stratification, and at the bottom is the people that's the poor, the working class, the war captives, the slaves. So what happened with us is that we all came here as bottom caste. We all came here as slaves, or enslaved, as they say. And so we were all lumped together. Now that bottom class is always the largest group of people. They keep everybody else afloat. And we all get lumped together. So America has always seen all black people as the bottom caste. Over time, we have evolved. At the end of slavery, many of them hit the ground running. They started achieving right after slavery. Madame C.J. Walker, for instance, her family came out of the slave system. And so each generation has improved. A group of us, a portion of us, have continued to improve since slavery. But America has always tried to look upon us as one group. So what ends up happening and what has happened with us is that we're looking at each other as one group. So the people who have progressed and moved on to a different earning class, people say, I hear Yvette Carnell saying we don't have a middle class or upper class or whatever. Well, we may not have an upper class, but there are upper class earners, and they behave like upper class. So what happens is that the people who are not in the upper class behave like the ones that are. And that is why we're seeing these attacks on women. Now black men are attacking white and black women because they have the sense of, well, I'm supposed to be like the basketball players. The basketball players have access to a particular kind of woman that's not black, that these black men may not have. But because we evolved and people have defined us as one group, they think they're entitled to those women too. And it's playing itself out in so many other ways. Black men are complaining that their mothers, they're responsible for them, because they're saying black women, but they have to be talking about their mothers, are responsible for them being that way. And I have a sort of a bombshell in that they're not completely wrong. I taught school for 35 years. When black boys come to the school as kindergartners and second graders and fourth graders, and I taught the first grade, second, 1 year, third, fourth, and sixth. So I saw them at different levels. When they are young, when they're kindergartners, and I didn't teach kindergarten, but I worked on the kindergarten hall, they are as enthusiastic about learning as anybody. Black boys. They want to learn. They want to be a part of the school environment like everybody else. And the schools I taught in were always integrated. But something happens. If they don't come to school with those 22,000 words in their vocabulary that their educators say they have to have, then they start out behind. That means that you really have to do something to make sure that they stay caught up. And what I had problems with, even with these children starting out behind, that their mothers very often were not either. They weren't able because they didn't have the skills to help their children. And in some cases, they were very combative toward the school system. So they didn't get the education that they needed to really progress along with their classmates. And you then have to do some serious intervention. And so many times the black parents didn't have the resources to do that. So the boys grow up angry. So by the time they get to the sixth grade, They are so angry, they're hard to control. Go to any school in the United States where you have a large population of black children, and you're going to find discipline problems. It's not because the system is against them. And it is, well, we know it's against us to a certain extent. But there are black children that are succeeding. But if they don't get the intervention that they need, and the Boys and Girls Club is a good example of an organization that really helps them. And then some churches have tutorial programs, but they need the intervention. These black boys need it more than black girls, because you can get black girls to do the work in the classroom, especially if you move them away from black boys. Because especially by the time they get to middle school and high school, they made a decision about who they're going to be. And they have to be intervened before they get to that point. So this is where we are now. Everybody thinks they're supposed to be in the same group as everybody else. So if you have a party of a particular group of black girls, and I'm going to say sorority because I work with sorority girls, and they can't have a party unless they have security, because they're going to be invaded by people who are not supposed to be there, who are not even in school, who haven't been invited, but they're just come. And if you don't let them in, then you got a problem. We've had problems with high school students having a graduation party and kids who are not supposed to be at the party crashing the party. So we had the police chief here. His daughter graduated a few years ago, and she was at a graduation party in a certain part of town, and she had a bunch of kids there, and then these children she didn't even know came and shot, and one of the children got killed. And the police chief was, naturally he was very upset, and he had a meeting with those children, and he told them, now your party is only as good as the people you invite, and if you invite someone and they invite their friend and you don't know that friend, then you have a potential problem. So the way they solved it here was at the police station, at the headquarters, they have a community room. So they said, for young teenagers, you want to have a party? Okay, come to the police station and have your party at the community room. Now that solved that problem. That solved that problem. But it's sad that we do have to do things like that. But the problem is that we don't have a social stratification. We don't have a social class. You have to have that so that everybody will know where they belong. It sounds elitist, but that's what you have to do. Now, the name of my channel is Lady Boulay, and I call myself Lady Boulay. The reason that I do that is because before I came to YouTube, I used to comment on videos. I would see black men putting out videos about black women, and I would comment on them. And I would have back and forth discussions. And this happened to me several times. They would end up calling me a Boulay A.N. because I disagreed with some of the things they were saying. So I just said, okay, fine. Well, then that's who I'll be. I'll be Lady Boulay. And that's how I got my name. But we lack a social stratification. We lack a standard where people say, now this is how I'm going to behave. And if you don't want to behave this way, we don't need to be associating with each other. And we shouldn't be afraid to say that. You're not being elitist. You're holding to your standards. These are your standards, and you have a right to those standards. And the last thing that I will say, relative to black girls, you can get black girls to commit to a vocation in school, especially if you talk to them separate from boys. I know that there would be times when I was working that the Boy Scouts would come and meet with the boys, or some mentoring group would come and meet with the boys, and I would be in the classroom with the girls, and we would have a discussion. And I would talk to them about, life, and you got to have a plan for your life. You've got to have a plan for your life. And they would say, I want to be a teacher. I want to be a nurse. I want to be a beautician. My grandma owns a beauty shop, and I want to work in a beauty shop. I want to be whatever, lawyers. Some of them wanted to be lawyers, some wanted to be doctors. They had a plan for their life. It was hard to tie black boys down to a profession beyond athletics and entertainment, being a rapper. It was hard to do that. My brother was a principal a few years ago when he was a principal of a middle school, wanted to improve the test scores of his eighth graders. So he separated them. He put the girls on one wing and the boys on the other wing. And he noticed that there was a change in their behavior. And he monitored the situation. And so he said when testing came around, he was really kind of excited about what the results were going to be. But when his test scores came back, they all did better. He said the boys did better and the girls, but the girls soared. He was shocked at how well those girls performed on that standardized test. So the answer sometimes really is to separate the two, because you can get more work out of the boys when they're separated from the girls. Because when they're around the girls, all they're going to do is pick at the girls and distract them to keep them from doing the work. But you can get black girls, many of them, I'm going to even say most, you can tie them down to a profession. And that is why when we see the statistics that African American women are the most educated group in the United States, I believe it. Because you can tie girls down. When you can get them separated, you can get a real commitment about responsibility from those girls. And we have to continue to do that even as we work on the boys. I'm not willing to give up on them because I have worked with young people for so long. So I don't think you give up on anybody, but you do have to call a spade a spade. And black women have to look out for themselves and to move their own lives forward, because that is what's going to improve the black community. It's understated. It's understood that if you educate girls, you're going to educate the race. So we have to continue to work on the girls and pray for the boys. But it's the social stratification that we lack, and we have to do it. At some point we have to do it, because you can't continue to let people drag the whole black race down. If they want to go in a particular direction, that's their business. But the rest of us, somebody's got to hold up for the black race. And if it's going to be black women, then it's just going to have to be black women. Okay, well, thank you. This was not so bad. See you later.